Some volatility on the Bitcoin chart. You see on the daily, Bitcoin falling right now. This is going to be a really straight and simple video, a technical analysis video update on Bitcoin price on the short term, because right now the move that's happening as it's interacting with all-time high is very, very reminiscent to last cycle. So this move that's happening, we actually saw it last cycle. That's kind of partly what I want to break down in this video. And we're just going to talk about what support to look for, what resistance, all that good stuff. So hit the subscribe, hit the like on the way in. Let's get into the Bitcoin video. Let's first zoom out. Let me explain to you. And then as we're going to start digging into really short-term price action, look at some oscillators. What I'm talking about is Bitcoin right now. Like if you look at it, not even from this previous all-time high, right? But you just look at from last cycle, the area that Bitcoin is testing. It's trying to break this entire area right now. This move, this week is a crucial week for that. In a very similar way, almost at the same exact time last cycle, post-Bitcoin halving, that this move was kind of where we are right now. So you can see Bitcoin trying to break the all-time highs back here of 2017. Now, when we start digging into this, things become even more kind of similar. And that's really what I wanted to do in this video. So here we are in Bitcoin. This is on the daily chart. And we're going to sprinkle in just some very everyday, commonplace technical analysis to this comparison. But let's start with this clip. This is from October 20th, 11 days ago. Check this out. What's the trend line doing? Are we getting that throwback early, right? We always talk about breakouts and then throwbacks to the trend line. Are we getting the breakout early? So two things to that. This was, 11 days ago. We actually got a throwback early, right? And we got a throwback to this moving average. It's a 20-day moving average, this upper trend line. But now the throwback that might be in play right now is more in line with what I like to see, especially if we're bouncing off of a macro resistance area, namely all-time high resistance. So check this out. A throwback at this moment is so normal, even if it's not in this environment. I use a lot of data from Balkowski, the patternsite.com. When he's talking about descending broadening wedges, he talks about a throwback rate of 62%. So that's a pretty high percentage for throwbacks out of these wedges and out of these breakouts. So if we're looking at the move, this is what it looks like. We're breaking out of this upper trend line, this broadening wedge right here, and a throwback, right, to that upper trend line. Now, put aside the data that he has. This is Bitcoin bouncing off of and resisting the all-time high area. So it makes even more sense that we're getting some type of resistance. Now, the question is, and we can start seeing some hints maybe on the 6-hour chart in a minute, but the question is, are we going back down to this upper trend line back here? $66,000, $67,000. Is that what's in play? Notice the moving averages, the 20-day moving average just below 68, and we have the 50 kind of making its way to the upside. So always making moves back to those moving averages is so common for Bitcoin, especially in a higher high, higher low environment. But let's look at last cycle. So here's Bitcoin on the daily chart kind of interacting with all-time high, but what it looks like on the daily chart as opposed to that weekly chart. And this is what we're looking at. You can see Bitcoin kind of rejected, and this is kind of a very similar move that we're in right now. You can even see it broke this very key upper trend line, and it's almost like we're getting a throwback. And notice where Bitcoin actually did see support at the 20-day moving average. So if we look at where Bitcoin is right now, 20-day moving average currently just below 68,000. I think that's a really good area just to watch for Bitcoin in terms of, can we see support above that area? Maybe it falls to the area very, very quick. Maybe Bitcoin consolidates sideways, choppy for a while, and just we see the 20-day moving average pull into Bitcoin. Can that hold support? When we're looking at last cycle, you can see it actually did. And if we look at what happened next, what happened? Bitcoin kind of bounced off that area to the upside. It retraced again, and then it took off. And what I want to note on this daily chart could be kind of a helpful thing on our current daily chart is the consolidation that Bitcoin had. If you look at the stock RSI, the quicker moving momentum oscillator, it really it needed to fall and consolidate in the oversold area. And it hung out there for a little bit. And this is quicker moving momentum oscillator in oversold, right? We're not talking about the slower moving, which is an RSI right here. We're talking about the stock RSI kind of giving hints. So if we go to the chart now, that's something I will be watching. It's not oversold right now. So it's currently kind of pivoting out of overbought. And I'm not saying it's going to fall to oversold, but I think that's a good, if Bitcoin does start falling, a good area to start watching for the bounce, right? And again, not only do we have this massive resistance area we've been talking about, it's between this upper trend line and all-time high, but we have a support area of all of these moving averages. And now that we have some separation from the upper trend line, that area is support. So we have the 20-day almost perfectly confluent with the upper trend line. So we're looking at around $67,000 to $68,000, that first big area of support. And then we have the 50 down here. It's at 64, and the 200 is 63. So 63 to 64 is that next area. And if you look at this, actually, I'm just noticing this now. I just want to kind of plot the the swing low to swing high Fibonacci. Yeah, and you can see this higher low green area, this Fibonacci throwback, very confluent with the 250. So that entire area, 64 down to 62, the next area of support, if the first area of support falls, and that's really the 20-day, right below 68,000. I want to take a glance at the 6-hour chart briefly, just because if you're like me right now in these moments, I mean, look at the 6-hour zoomed out. Look at this move right at all-time high area. This is craziness. So what has been very helpful, and I'll just mention this briefly, what has been very helpful throughout this entire, 8 month of consolidation, this broadening wedge, has been these swing lows. And I say that in relation to the RSI, this slower moving momentum oscillator. And if you've been watching my analysis, tracking this entire thing, I got bullish here because Bitcoin was, and if you remember, I think I did a prediction video right around there. And I don't do prediction videos. Let's call it a forecast video. But we're getting oversold on the 6-hour, but Bitcoin was all the way up here. And every time so far in this pattern, you can see Bitcoin was at the lower trend line getting oversold, right? So every time it got oversold, that was an environment where we're like at the lower trend line of this wedge. This time it was happening all the way up here, and the momentum on Bitcoin just looked too strong. So we're going to continue tracking this oversold indicator, right? If Bitcoin keeps consolidating, and we don't know what it's going to look like, but when Bitcoin gets oversold on the 6-hour, I will be watching very closely. Where's Bitcoin on this chart? Where is it? I mean, is it going to be just a revisit to the upper trend line, just a slow consolidation down, and then at this moment we're oversold on that 6-hour? That could be a bullish setup. So we might need Bitcoin to cool off a little bit before making that next attempt to really break through all-time high. But these are some of the things that I'll be watching. So wanted to do a quick recap. I know price action, not exciting right now since the other day testing all-time highs, but a lot to look out for. So please hit the subscribe, hit that like on the way in. I want to mention something, everybody. I have a Substack newsletter. It's free. I try to put audio to it if you want to listen along. So hit the link below in the description, sign up with me. I'm really just trying to offer more value here, try and just offer more content and slowly maybe find a way to build out the community a little bit. But I appreciate you cruising through. Let's see what happens with Bitcoin with all these charts. Only time will tell. Hope you have a great day. I'll see you in the next video. God bless.